Hi, welcome back to the Ramshackle Ranch. We are really excited because our summer sort of drought, our mini drought has broken. The rain has come. We're just taking a little bit of a break in the weather now to have a bit of a chat with you. And Pascal, they'll probably hear the birds in the background.
They're going crazy now with this change of the season. They're really happy that it's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we wanted to talk about is we can sometimes maybe make it look like everything's just going tickety-boo.
Very peachy.
Very peachy and everything like that. Perhaps it might be good to just have a little bit of a look at our failures.
Well, there's a few animals that haven't worked out for us, so maybe we'll hit off with one of those. Let's talk about the ducks.
The ducks.
The ducks.
Yeah, well, ducks. Well, I've always had a soft spot in my heart, and I was sort of really looking forward to having some ducks.
You were very excited about getting ducks.
And in particular, I really have always liked the Indian runner ducks, because they've got that nice upward stance, and their faces are nice and everything like that. And they don't really quack, very loud. They're sort of a low noise, but the male is more noisy, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And also they were a great egg-laying breed, so you were excited about having lots of duck eggs.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you're excited for cooking because
duck eggs are really good for baking and custards and things like that.
And we'll go over this because some people out there might be thinking of some of these animals, and we'll just tell you our experience. You might be better suited to these things, but we'll tell you where we fell down, and you might be able to cover these bases.
Yeah.
But the first thing that we noticed about ducks is they're really messy. So I think people have called them a manurial animal. So everything they eat goes through them very quickly. And I mean, stepping in a chook poo is rough, it's not great. But ducks, it's just everywhere very, very quickly. And you combine that with, I think we found that whatever water you put there, they want it out of the container and they want to spread it and they foul it. They like to poo in the water because they spend a lot of time in there. They do all their grooming and their toilet.
Yeah, so we found ourselves cleaning the water once or twice a day, their feeding water, which we had to put separate to the chickens' water because they were fouling the chickens' water. And that was another thing. We didn't have a separate house for our ducks. They were living with our chickens.
Yeah, that was the biggest pain because it was relatively easy to get to make the non-fouling water for the ducks. I just got a bit of PVC, made a pipe with two ends, and I just cut holes in it. They could only just get their bills in. But of course, we've got a waterer for our chickens. It's got a little flow valve and it's open, so they just they piled into that. So we did. The first failure was that we found that we couldn't really keep our ducks with our chickens. Straight off the bat, and that was something because they fouled up the chicken area. But we were sort of getting around that by letting everyone out fairly early. We free range our birds. We took care of the fox problem that we had quite early. Well, Jet took care of it. Our Whippet cross bull terrier dog. She's a natural enemy of foxes and rabbits and all things. So that was sorted out. So we could free range them, and that was okay. But free ranging led to a different problem.
Right. We have one dam on our property. It's not the most beautiful dam compared to all the neighbouring properties around us. And where the chicken coop is situated looks right out over our neighbours' 3 dams, and it was just irresistible for our ducks.
Yeah, those dams have been cut by our neighbour a long time ago, so they're very well established with water reeds and all these things surrounded by grass. So our ducks were just like, check you guys later, there's nothing here for us, and they kept going over there. We were able to call our ducks, when it came,
the feed bucket.
Yeah, we could bang the feed bucket and the ducks would certainly come back, which was really great, but they actually started laying their eggs over there. So we were feeding them, and the neighbours' marron, the freshwater crayfish were getting the eggs, because they actually started laying the eggs in the dam. I don't think ducks are that bright. Especially domesticated ones.
Yeah, they'll lay them in the dam or in the reed. So sometimes our neighbours would find them, which we thought was okay because that's compensation for the ducks being in their dam. They said to us that they didn't really mind, but at the same time they also had marron in there. So I think they were nervous that our ducks they suspected that our ducks might have been eating some of their marron, or at least the younger marron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our neighbours are really nice people, so when they said we really don't mind, I think that they were just fibbing to be good neighbours. So we decided to be good neighbours, and
we got rid of the ducks.
So, and a common theme here is most of the livestock that you try, they all have the attribute of being edible. All right, so it's not like we live in a culture where, like, if you have a dog and you don't want it anymore, it doesn't matter, you're stuck with it, you have to like maintain it. But a lot of the livestock, at least you can pop it in the freezer, which we do. We're sort of practical people in that respect.
Yeah, we actually, we lost one or two to a fox on the neighbour's property.
What happened is we lost a male because, and what it was, we stopped by at my sister's place for a dinner, remember? And I wanted to come back and I was a bit nervous because we had seen a fox, and by the time we got back all the other ducks were fine. But I think the male duck, he had just like done his decoy thing and the fox took it. And he was a really great decoy. So we lost our male that way. But yeah, that pretty much happened. We just could not keep them on our property. They kept going to the neighbours. We didn't want to strain the relations there. We were feeding ducks for nothing. We were hoping the ducks were going to be pest control around the place. But really what they did was they spent a lot of time just in the dam having a great time, duck diving and stuff like that, and they would just come for food. So we just figured that it didn't really work out. We weren't getting anything. We basically had pets that we didn't even really get to pet.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they were just always scared of us. They were
suspicious.
They weren't friendly ducks.
No, our chickens and everything else was sort of very friendly.
And they were making the chickens like anxious and nervous.
That's true. That's true. So we got those ducks when they were of a fairly advanced age, and I don't think they were raised in like the same way that we might raise them.
Yeah.
So they came and they were scared of us. And what happened is we had chickens that would sort of come right up to us.
And the Australops were still quite young. They were younger than the ducks.
Yeah, so we'd worked up to that where the chickens would actually come up to us, which makes livestock a lot easier to deal with if you can do that. But because the ducks would panic if we got too close to them, like they'd run up for food, but they didn't like us getting close to them, and that fear actually got into our chickens.
Yeah.
And so that was the final straw actually.
Yeah.
So the ducks, that was basically the things that we came up against that we sort of resolved it as we went, but they were a hassle because they do foul their water, they do foul where they live, so you have to address those two things, and people successfully do. So that's neither here nor there. That's not the duck's fault. You do have to secure them if you've got neighbours with dams that are better than yours.
Yeah, or at least have an attractive waterhole for them to hang out on your property.
Right, yeah. Anything else, Pascal? Oh, and make sure if you can, get your ducks young and raise them how you like,
them yourself,
so that they trust you. It might have been different. Our dam's quite a bit further away from the house, and I was thinking of making an enclosure with a chute going straight out to the dam and a floating platform for them, and I think they would have accepted that. It would have been more work, more expense than I was willing to put in at that stage.
Farther from the house as well.
Farther from the house.
And looking after them and checking for foxes and things. So.
Yeah, anything within 100 metres of the house has dog protection.
Yeah.
We found she's super, super effective. The fox problem is non-existent in our property, but we do know that out there, the foxes are definitely an issue for people. Yeah. Related to ducks, I guess, are geese. While we're talking waterfowl? Those fowl things.
Yeah, so as you will gather, we actually really like birds, so we wanted to give geese a shot. We thought ducks didn't work, but maybe geese will stay around us more and we'll just give them a go. And we were offered two breeding pairs actually, from a friend that we made when we went to look out at her goats in Margaret River. And so she said, look, I've got plenty of geese, they're just breeding up, so I can give you two breeding pairs. Why don't you give it a go? So that was really lovely. So we went and picked them up and brought them home.
And I was struck by the fact that when I went and kidnapped the geese with that lady, within a day or two, all of that was forgiven, and they seemed to be very, it looked very promising. They were following us around and taking food and everything like that. These were young geese.
Yeah, we set up a paddle pool for them, so they were swimming in a little play pool, which seemed to keep them happy, and they were eating the grass around the property, and yeah. It did look very promising. So we had like an electric mesh enclosure for them that I could put them in, even though it wasn't electrified. Later on I electrified it for safety for them, but they didn't really test the fence, and we sort of thought geese were going to work out, and we like geese because they're a grazer. So we've got plenty of grass here, and they could go through that. And when in the time that we don't have grass, then we just figured that we'd be able to,
feed them brewery grain, the spent grain that we get that we've covered in other videos, and we'd come to some arrangement, garden scraps and stuff like that. So everything was going pretty well, but then of course they also got a glimpse of the neighbour's dam. And so they did start to, at first we had them and they could fly. And I was really excited when I saw our geese flying. I was like, look at that, because they would fly from the top and they would run and see me down at the veggie garden, and they would fly down to me, and it was really exciting. But then after a while they learnt that they could take a run up, and just a little flight gets them over the fence, and then they would all run off down to the neighbour's dam and just have a massive time down there honking and carrying on. So again, the neighbours, this time they were a bit concerned because geese have long necks and they are breeding freshwater crayfish, marron, in their dams. And I know that one of our neighbours, Penny, she was asking, do geese eat marron? And I was like, no, they eat grass, but I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So we did have to, get those. We chased those geese out of the dam a few times, but it was beginning to be irresistible.
Yeah, so we thought we'd stop them from flying over the fence by clipping their wings. Just clipping one side of their wing,
Right.
just to off balance them so they wouldn't be able to get any flight. And they couldn't fly as well as they used to be able to fly, but it was just still so tempting for them to go and be on that dam that they managed to fly just enough to get over the fence.
Just enough to clear a sheep fence,
Yeah.
and that was all it took. The thing with geese is they're such a powerful bird that if you trim both wings, they can still get a bit of lift, but if you just trim one, it throws them out. But our geese would like take a run, and you'd know when it's happening, because they'd all honk and get really excited, and they just make a bit of a leap, get over, then honk, 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 and run straight off to the dam. And at that stage, I was like, so I'd have to bring them back. So I'd get long poles, dogs, and bring them back. And eventually, I got around all that just by flying the drone down and harassing them with a drone and bringing them back. So we kept bringing them back. They kept flying there, and we were sort of willing to make a go of it. And I started walking them up to our dam, and they were very happy with that. And they would just walk back of an evening. But from our dam, they could see another neighbour's property, and he was trying to sell it at the time.
He was.
So of course
It was looking immaculate.
He was mowing the lawn. It was immaculate, and his dams were in particularly good fashion. And our geese were just like, that place looks amazing. It looks just like Hyde Park. So they all honk, 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 ran, and they got into his place. So he was, like
we didn't actually know where they were to begin with. They were actually missing for a few days. We didn't know where they'd gone. And then we got the binoculars out, and we saw that they were at this guy's property way over the other side of the valley.
Yeah. So he was trying to sell his property, like I said, and the geese were having a good time in his dam, but they would go up to his house to do their toilet. So there was goose poo up there. And so that was the end of the geese, basically. Like we'd spent so much time now trying to wrangle these geese and contain them. They just did not want to stay with us.
Yeah, it was too hard.
And I was really looking forward to seeing what geese taste like anyway. So
yeah, so they went in the freezer too.
They went in the freezer as well. So this wasn't all in one big hit. This is we've been
over several months.
Yeah, we've been here for a while. So it wasn't just like some fowl massacre that happened one day.
Yeah.
So that's the struggle that we found with geese.
With the water and waterfowl in general.
And waterfowl in general. We're surrounded by beautiful dams that we can't compete with. And all of those dams, the properties on the other side of the valley are actually they have a better aspect than ours. They're nice and sunny, so the grass gets greener quicker. And it's just a nice environment. Animals like sunbaking as well, so a lot of them spend their time over there.
Yeah.
If you think that you can contain your geese, I mean, a large fence would do it. You wouldn't need a large area. That would be fine. And they were happy with a kiddie pool. And by the time they played in that kiddie pool each day, that was so nice to throw on our veggie patch. It was foul, but it was the vegetables really responded to goose water. So I think people, if they had...
I think if you have a really attractive dam, you're sweet. Attractive lake or whatever, pond on your property, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe moving away from birds, after we were felling all the blue gum trees, we had a lot of smallish logs or narrowish logs that we were told would be really great to inoculate with mushrooms. And so we thought, oh, let's do this. We've got so much of this wood lying around. Let's get some plugs online. So we got oyster mushroom, shiitake mushroom, lion's mane and turkey tail. They're dowels that you hammer into you drill a hole first and hammer them in to inoculate the wood with the mycelium of those fungi.
So I think what they do is they'll have a mycelial solution. They drop those wooden dowels in. They're the same dowels that people use to like hang a painting. You put it in a hole. It's a 3/8-inch dowel.
They felt softer than a wooden dowel. But
they're pine.
Oh, they're pine?
Yeah,
okay.
They were just commercial dowels. They've been soaked in a mycelium solution and then they refrigerate it, keep them packaged and send it to us. And I suspect one of our points of failure of not growing good mushrooms was that we didn't immediately put those dowels into the logs.
Correct.
So I think...
They sat around for a couple of weeks. So when we went to put them in the logs, they'd already started growing. So instead of growing inside the log, they'd just grown on top of one another in the plastic bag.
Yeah, there was quite like a whole bunch of marshmallow with dowels sticking out of it.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be worth having a go at anyway. So we drilled out those logs, but on reflection, I was just thinking those logs, I'd left them, they were a couple of weeks they'd been laying around before we did it, and I looked online and people have said to do it with fresh logs.
Well, a couple of weeks is still fresh.
Don't know.
Maybe they were a bit older than that, or you reckon they're only a couple of weeks old?
I'm just throwing stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. That's, it was like a month that they'd been laying there. Okay, so people, if anyone's a successful mushroom grower, you can chime in the comments.
On dead wood, yeah.
So we got that, and I got in the shed, and I drilled out the holes, and I popped all the dowels in, and that was fine. I sealed them with a bit of wax.
Yep.
And we put them in a shady part of the old house that's on the property here, the old dilapidated house.
We wet them down.
We wet them down, and actually I had them sitting under peppermint trees for a while because that's a really nice environment, quite damp.
Yeah.
When the summertime came, I found that we were so busy. I put them in a shady spot where they had nice aeration. They were, like on the shade side, on the southern side. We're in the southern hemisphere, so the southern side of our buildings is the shady side. I popped them in there, and there's 2 trees and a house, and I popped them in here. And they were sort of arrayed in like a fort fashion, so they get airflow. But we were so busy that, periodically I'd go and just sort of spray them down with a hose. But I don't think I was able to maintain that well. I thought that they would be, not prone to drying out down there. Maybe they've dried out. But the main thing is that it's been, how long's it been? 18 months, Pascal?
Yes, so it's been nearly 18 months since we did them. Maybe closer to 2 years. We did them at the end of winter. So maybe that's also another thing, doing them in spring going through to summer. Maybe it's better doing them in autumn, so you've got that full lot of wet, cold weather. Yeah. To inoculate the logs.
In any case, it looked like an easy thing, but what we've got at the moment is a few of the logs do have a white sort of mycelial network growing on them, but we're not sure if that's good mushrooms or they're just rotting away down there.
They're just rotting now.
So the failure there was we got the package and we didn't immediately use it. So they did actually start growing in the package.
They did.
And I think also, me installing them, waxing them and everything like that was fine.
I think so.
We used blue gum, Eucalyptus globulus, as our base.
Which we researched, and that was supposed to be really, that's why the main reason why we ordered the dowels, because they're supposed to be really good for growing mushrooms on.
Yeah. They're not resinous, they're a nice hardwood. So that's what happened there. Summer, I think maybe I wasn't keeping the water. Maybe they dried out, but it's hard to imagine in the shade where sun can't get to it, with active vegetation around it, that those logs did completely dry right to their core. In any case, so what we thought was going to be quite an easy source of mushrooms hasn't turned out that way. I think if I was going to try it again, there's a little bit of a boggy part down there. I might be tempted to bury them vertically in the ground with just the post sticking out and then inoculate them again. This is, we're just bringing this up because our community out there has quite a broad knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you've got any hints on growing mushrooms or a way to try that out, hit us up in the comment section and we might learn something there. With all of these things, it's likely that we'll learn something, but I'm disinclined to go with waterfowl again just because I didn't really enjoy knocking them on the head. As much as they were very, very tasty and that was all, we were always going to grow our own food, it was upsetting when those things didn't work out for me.
The fourth thing that was a bit of a fail was that we built a hugel bed quite early in the piece with all of the rubble from clearing the trees and things like that. So why didn't that really work out?
Quickly, if you've never heard of the hugel bed or hugelkultur, it's from like Austrian, Germanic sort of that area of the world. So what it was is any trees or brush or whatever that you were clearing on your property, they'd put it in a big windrow, cover it with soil, let it rot down, plant into it. You get nice fertile soil. But particularly on farms, then it would be opened up and spread on the paddocks and spread that fertility, even though people now use it as a means of planting. So we'd cleared quite a few trees to make this place fire safe and to allow sun to get in because it's very dark and dank in a lot of the property here. So stuff that was unsuitable as firewood and we couldn't use for anything else, we actually decided to make a bit of a hugel bed there. So I had 2 big logs and we filled in the gap with all, like all that detritus and debris. And then I used our little tractor just to bury it with some of the soil. And of course we let the rain water it down and everything. And it was starting to look good and I could see different types of fungus and everything growing on the edges of the logs. But then the first part of the downfall of that hugel bed was that we took loan of a large boar, about 300 kilos, and Jimmy the boar, because we had 3 female pigs, gilts, that we wanted to breed from and get piglets. So Jimmy the boar came to stay with us. Being 300 kilos, it's not that easy to offload him. He came on the back of a Land Cruiser, so it's quite high up the ground. So basically we used our hugel bed as a ramp, and by the time Jimmy had jumped off into the field here with the rest of those pigs, they'd already discovered that hugel bed, as it was rotting down, just irresistible to a pig. And so we enclosed them all in an area just to get to know them, and I didn't want to move them on again because Jimmy was new to the farm. I didn't want him testing any fences, and so we left them there, and those pigs, man, they just did a job on that hugel bed. I did go on, I sort of rebuilt it again just to make it not so messy, and then when we got our dairy cow Astrid, again, it was delivered to us by a truck, and so we spoke to Dean Ryan, who wanted to drop our cow off, and he was like, "Do you have a loading ramp?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." So we got him to back up to the hugel bed again, and we got Astrid off. She was actually quite happy to walk off. She was a very cooperative cow.
They step down better, cows. They got longer legs, I guess. It's not such a big...
I think they see better than pigs too.
And they see better, yeah. Pigs don't like stepping down off big gaps or jumps.
Yeah. So in any case, if you've got a hugel bed and you'd like to wreck it, I can definitely suggest using it as an animal offloading ramp, and letting pigs get into it, because again, since that has happened, I had the hugel bed cleaned up a little bit more, and I was moving the pigs from one area to another, and they just bypassed and they raced up to the hugel bed and gave it another tossing.
There you go.
So we never actually got a chance to see that to rot down and plant into it. We planted a few things into it, but yeah, they got pigged. It was just more important to us to get pigs safely delivered than it was to try out that. And besides, our vegetable garden at that time was producing so much food that we just didn't need any more garden, basically.
Yeah.
So you really got to pick your battles on a property, even as small as 9 acres. It's surprising how stretched your time can get. Should we return to birds?
Yes, our fifth and final failure on the homestead was the guinea fowl.
I reckon that will come as no surprise to anyone. I think you'd need to be a unique person to keep guinea fowl. So the main problem with guinea fowl that everybody knows is their noise. It's a clattering. There's quite a large repertoire of sounds. And we were willing to put up with it.
We put up with the noise.
We were willing to put up with it because guinea fowl are cool. As they race around, they look kind of interesting. They are a definite key predator for ticks. But having said that, all of our tick problems are over in the paddocks, and the guinea fowl they stayed around the houses. They really liked it. Guinea fowl are also very good to keep snakes off your property. They harass them and chase them around and things like that. We have had tiger snakes, which are a deadly venomous snake, but they're not that aggressive where we live. They come down, they hibernate all winter, and they come in the summer, and we have found some around the house. So did the guinea fowls really help out? I'm not sure. I guess we've seen more now that the guinea fowl are away, so they might have actually been good for that. I did find that the guinea fowl would find a certain area, much like chickens, and really concentrate on it. So they actually dug quite a few holes around the place, and I didn't think guinea fowl would do that. People were saying that they're more of a like an insect eater or something like that. They don't scratch as hard. The thing with the guinea fowl that I was most upset about,
neither of us could tolerate,
that we couldn't tolerate, is that they're very aggressive. So what normally happens with chickens, for instance, and particularly our Australorps, they'll have a bit of a peck at each other, and that's it. Maybe one will chase the other across the yard, and then they'll be like, okay, I've established my pecking order. What we found with the guinea fowl is they would find a chicken they could dominate, and they would actually hold onto it, and all the guinea fowl would come and just gang bash it.
Yeah.
And we were seeing some of our chickens getting a bit damaged by the guinea fowl. Maybe that's not a problem with everyone, but with the guinea fowl that we had, certainly they were pretty aggro.
The issue was we introduced them into the coop, and they were younger than the existing chickens, but some of those chickens had babies, and it's once those babies had grown up and they didn't have the protection from their mum that was higher in the pecking order, that's when the guinea fowl started piling onto them. And so they were beating up our pullets, our young hens.
But it was never one-on-one. As soon as it started, all the guinea fowl would come and kick the tar out.
Because amongst themselves it's one-on-one, so they're quite aggressive amongst themselves, but then when they were beating up these young chickens, it was full on.
Yep.
Yeah. We didn't actually get any footage of that because, well, it only happened a few times and we got so upset by it, we just got rid of them basically. Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
So we did actually get, there's not much meat on a guinea fowl that we found compared to a chicken. And I mean, we like the guinea fowl eggs, but they're smaller. The shell's harder and they're an interesting egg, but the return that we were getting wasn't in the meat and the eggs like a chicken, and we didn't feel that snake protection and all the other supposed benefits of guinea fowl. They're also there's supposed to be an alert or an alarm for an intruder or foxes, but to be honest, they kick off at just about everything. So it's almost like the boy that cried wolf. You don't know whether there's something on your property or the guinea fowl are just excited, because they do. If anything excited them, they would kick off, and if one did, they all did. And particularly for a couple of people whose business, if you like, we pay taxes and do everything from this. Business is talking to a camera and not trying to have some nice audio. There was very rarely a time when you could just pull the camera out for any sort of extended period without a guinea fowl just absolutely going nuts in the background. Excuse the guinea fowl, it's a little bit nervous with us just crashing in here. So that was also difficult, and that's maybe a unique problem to us. But at the moment you can hear that this is quite nice and peaceful.
So peaceful.
Well, that's out of the question if you've got guinea fowl. So we are actually peaceful people. So
yeah. So that was the guinea fowl.
Yep. All right. So they're basically our failures. They're the things that we just like. All right, we can't come back from this. We've made a big mistake and we just sort of ended it. We have had setbacks as well. So through the dry summers, the way I rigged our electric fence, that took some work. These are things that we did manage to overcome and then we can fix. So there has been a couple of things like that. This last summer was particularly hard, so our vegetable garden had quite a low yield and we actually had to stop watering from our dam.
Yeah.
That was...
So we really lost productivity this summer.
Yes, our summer production was low. That's all right because from the previous summer we've still got so much preserved food there.
Yeah, we went crazy last summer.
Yeah, that Pascal was like, we just really shouldn't be growing any more tomatoes. You don't want too many solanum anyway because of they're a bit inflammatory.
I find them really inflammatory for me. Yeah, yeah. So we're basically just running on our preserved tomatoes from last year, but we're only having them occasionally.
Yeah,
they're not a staple in our diet at the moment.
And that's another reason why we were so very happy that the rains had come back because now our dam is starting to fill up.
Yeah, and we're actually starting to plant things in the garden that we use a lot. So garlic and onions and things like that.
Root things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Our cow has been a great success. Our milk cow has been very, very successful. The only drawback there is I used food to get her trust so I could milk her, but now she sees me as a source of really delicious food, so she thinks that eating grass is a bit beneath her when she knows that there's like wheelbarrows of spent brewery grain, there's buckets full of oaten chaff, there's buckets full of lucerne chaff, there's buckets of cow pellets. So periodically, if she doesn't feel that she's gotten enough, we have to listen to a cow.
Yeah, especially
howling.
If you're walking out around in the paddocks.
Yeah.
She's going to start yelling at you.
But having said that, I do enjoy. We're actually starting to bond now, that cow, so milking's become a lot easier. She never shows any aggression, never tries to kick me or anything like that. But yeah, that's one drawback with a dairy cow is she's learnt. That she can petition me for food. Yeah,
we've replaced the Guinea fowl noise with the cow mooing.
It's not as bad.
It's not as bad, but sometimes it's pretty persistent.
Yeah. That's about it. We found that the pigs that we were using on the farm to renovate the pastures, they've done such a good job now that we don't have carrying capacity for quite as many pigs. So now we're reducing their numbers. And what we're going to do, we've decided that because we can't carry pigs all year, we're not going to breed them on farm like we were thinking that we would be able to. Because pigs being monogastric, they can't feed themselves off our land. We always have to give them inputs, and we subsidise that with spent brewery grain and apples from the local packing house. But they also need more than that, so we have to go and get things, and so that's an expense. We have a dry summer and a winter when the grass is very watery, so we actually need hay for our dairy cow. So what we're thinking now is that we will buy in piglets from people that do breed them in somewhere within the 150 k's of where we live. We sold our boar and breeding sow to someone, so I could always go and talk to him about buying piglets back.
Yeah.
And then we can just fatten them up from for like the 4 months that it takes to get a nice fat pig for the freezer. So I think we'll be doing that. Mm-hmm. But
that's not a failure.
That's not a failure. Our pigs were so successful renovating this pasture. There's only a little patch down below, and I think as we fatten up our pigs, I can still use them, but we can't have pigs on this block all year round. Summer is a real hardship for us. Mm. The pigs are a success in that they did clear the way, and now that we feel that we can have a dairy cow. Yes. And I'm even thinking that we could probably support 2 cows, so we might be able to keep Beatrix, our dairy cow's offspring, because she is such a promising looking cow.
She's a beautiful cow. I think she'll be a good mother, so yeah, it's tempting to keep her too. Mm. Yeah.
All right, so there you go. It's not all beer and skittles, is it? Which is entirely predictable. There's always going to be stuff goes wrong when you're doing things like that.
Yeah.
What hasn't gone wrong is we've still got quite a few of you have. Oh, you can go then. See ya. What has been really great is that we've still got quite a number of you that have stuck with us from our sailing days and the evolution of how things are going. I will be going sailing again sometime in the future when I get that little boat built. So hang in there if you did like the sailing stuff. But thank you again for everyone that gives us the comments. Very encouraging. We get lots of great information from all of you. As always, I want to thank the people that financially support us, but I do want to say thank you very much for the people. I've just noticed that we've had a few more people joined as patrons to send us a bit of money that way. We've had some super thanks, and we've also had quite a few contributions from PayPal. We really appreciate it, so thank you for those people that have reached out and done that. That helps pay our bills and bring you these videos. So amazing, all of you guys. Yep. Anything else you want to add there, Pasky?
No, just hopefully that information is useful to you if you have a homestead. Some things to consider if you're thinking about any of those projects. There are slip-ups, and if anyone's got any comments about how we could have done better, then let us know in the comment section.
Oh, very nice. Okay. All right. See you next time.
See you next time.